With Lent kicking off this Wednesday, I wanted to just jump on real quick and share something very, very personal with you. I want to share how I'm approaching the sorrowful mysteries, in particular, the third sorrowful mystery of the Holy Rosary during this Lent for me. Anybody that knows me knows that the crowning with thorns has always deeply resonated with me. You know, it's such a personal and intimate look into Christ's suffering. And this Lent, I'm making it the cornerstone of my Lenten reflections and prayers. Whenever I pray the sorrowful mysteries, it always helps me to visualize the Passion of the Christ, that awesome movie that Mel Gibson made, because, man, does that starkly show what Christ went through in his sufferings. And it never fails to bring me to tears. So in this short video, I'll walk you through my method, how I'm going to pray during Lent, in the hopes that it helps you. Let me start out by recalling what the third sorrowful mystery involves in Scripture. In Matthew 27, Mark 15, and John 19, Christ is dragged into Praetorium after having been scourged. You know, and a lot of people say, a lot of scholars say that it's amazing that he even survived the scourging. It was enough to kill just about anybody. But he did. He did survive the scourging. And then after that, they drag him into the Praetorium, they strip him naked, they mock him, and then they cram a crown of thorns on his head. And you know, a lot of scholars have said, I think in looking at the Shroud of Turin and other things, they said that one of the thorns, which these thorns were long and very thick, one of them pierced his eyelid and maybe part of his eye. I mean, that's got to be horrific in and of itself. And then, you know, you throw in everything else that he went through. You know, then what comes next, to me, is the most horrific part of his suffering. It's the personal assaults that he underwent. I mean, punches to his face, spitting in his face, parts of his beard getting plucked out, which, by the way, was prophesied in Isaiah chapter 50, verse 6. And the mocking that followed, dressing him in purple, which, as we all know, purple was the color of royalty. You know, so they dressed him in purple and they mocked him as, you know, they hailed him as King of the Jews and all that kind of stuff, and then started hitting him again. And if you look at crucifixions in a historical context, you'll see that was not part of the typical crucifixion. Crucifixions were pretty much rote, they were businesslike, and it was just Roman soldiers following orders, you know, and they did thousands of these things. So it was a very impersonal act, really. But this, the spitting in his face, the punching him in his face, mocking him, crowning him with thorns, that's a personal attack. That's eye-to-eye contempt that these people did to our blessed Lord. You know, I've been shot at in my career too many times, but I've also been engaged in pretty serious hand-to-hand combat, really serious, by goodness, I'm gonna kill you kind of hand-to-hand combat fights. And I never took, it's funny, I never took being shot at as personal as I did a fight. Somebody up close in my face wanting to kill me, looking me in the eye and punching me, and I've even been spat upon. You know, I never took being shot at as personal as that. And that gives me just a little bit of an appreciation for what Christ went through. I mean, what Jesus went through was profoundly personal. It wasn't procedural at all. And what did he do? He took it all. He took it all like a little lamb, like just a meek little lamb. I often think about the fact that Jesus, being God, throughout all of this suffering and everything, all the trials that they put him under, physical and otherwise, as God, he could have obliterated this planet and everybody on it. He could have obliterated the whole universe, but he didn't do it, did he? He took it for all of us. He took it for me. And if I was the only person that ever stepped foot on this planet, he still would have done it for me. And when I think about that, when I think about the fact that it was my sins that put him in this position to be mocked and humiliated, I did that to him, you know? And it just really touches, you know, home for me and shows me how I'm lacking every day in my prayer life. So my goal this Lent is to truly meditate on the third sorrowful mystery, you know, among other things, but more intensely than ever before. Every day, I plan on starting my Lenten prayer with a single decade of the Rosary, again, contemplating the crowning with thorns. I'm going to visualize the crowning with thorns slowly. You know, I'm not going to rush through it. I'm not going to rush through the Hail Marys. I'm going to visualize each guard's face that did this to him. and the people that mocked him, the other bystanders that mocked him and didn't offer any help to him. I'm going to picture the thorns piercing his head, the blood running down his face and his head, mixed with the sweat and the dirt. And then I'm going to pivot to my own sins and how they contributed to what Christ had to go through. I mean, heck, whenever I've sinned, especially, and I'm ashamed to admit it, but especially when I've taken the Lord's name in vain, I did exactly what those Roman soldiers did to him. And it sickens me to think about that. And one thing that I've done for years now, after fully reverting back to the church, is whenever I've genuflected before entering a pew, I just say real quick in my head, "For you, Jesus." And I offer it in reparation of times that I have disrespected his name or otherwise disrespected him by sinning. And I offer it also in reparation for anybody else that has disrespected him or sinned against him in blasphemy. As the father of 4 adult daughters, I want it to give me a better appreciation and to strengthen how I lead my family as a father. In researching this topic, I found that there was a mystic named Saint Bridget of Sweden. I'd never heard of her, but she would have visions of the Third Sorrowful Mystery. She really emphasized the emotional torture that Christ underwent. And I want to connect with that myself. And then I'm going to end this contemplation while I pray with a glory be, because it's such heavy material to think about that I want to have a little bit of hope thrown in there as well. Hope in the resurrection. And that will help me get through this, because again, it's a very heavy thing to have to contemplate. So that's how I'm contemplating the crowning with thorns this Lenten season. I want Christ's horrible suffering to help me grow spiritually, which I'm sure will be in some small way pleasing to him. I want his suffering to become personal to me. I truly hope that this helps spark your reflections for the Lenten season. And drop a comment, please. What's standing out in your Lenten preparation and what you're going to do during Lent? God bless you this Lent, and I truly hope that it's fruitful for you. Till next time, God bless, and Padre Pio, Ora Pro Nobis.